Hello, this is Terry from Fabric Junction, and today we're going to do our 6.5-inch block called capital T. And I think sometimes we've seen it as called t-shirt, maybe. Anyway, it looks really similar. But capital T it is. It takes one color plus a background. And here's our blocks that I made for a quilt. And here's what I did for the pot holder. I changed my color perspective and it creates a very different look. So part of this is to show you what great looks you can get when you change your color up just a little bit. Anyway, the block itself contains flying geese, half square triangles. And I'm going to do my half square triangles first. As we've done in the past, I take my 1/4-inch seam marker, I line it up corner to corner, my pencil, both sides, that's my stitch line. And like I remind you, I either stitch on that line or as close as I can on the seam allowance side so that my block doesn't get shorter and have any problems with it. I'll line up my pieces and I'm ready to sew. This method of chain piecing makes blocks go fairly fast when we can just keep adding all of our pieces to do a lot of our sewing at one time. When I have my one side done, I just flip it around and do my other side. I don't take them apart. I'm all set. I just want to keep right on sewing. Get these half square triangles made. Once they're made, take them apart. And now I can cut them apart. And press to the darker side. Go. Have them all. Trim the dog ears. So I was just thinking, for those that have followed me for quite a while, this is the part that you could just skip ahead a little bit, because we've walked through making these before. Okay, now it's time to start watching again as we do our placement. And it doesn't look much like T's until we start putting it together. Now, as a reminder on our geese, in this case I have a rectangle. I think it's a 1.5 by 2.5 if I remember. 1-inch squares, 1.5 by 2.5 inch square. I line one up, and just like with my half square triangles, if I was doing the whole stack, I'd do one after the other, getting one side done. And the other thing I need to point out is, if these were bigger, I would mark that center line, but because the distance is so short, I can line up my needle to this point without it shifting all over the place. I've got another line that I can follow on my machine. So if you need to mark it, definitely go ahead and mark it, but you will mark it from point to point, unlike what we did on the half square triangles. Because, like I said, and then you can fold it back and double check that you're in the right place and all of that. Oops, there we go. So that's the reason you didn't see me mark these, is because they are small and I don't get that wobble to one side or the other. because I'm not going very far. So once I have it lined up, I know I have a little dot here to line up this side. I line up that one so that the needle is hitting in the right place. And I just go from point to point. And that keeps my flying geese lined up. Okay, each of our little sections in our block, take 2 of these. I'm going to put them together, line them up, and in this case, I want to have the intersection on the top. I want this on the bottom because I do like to see when I cross right here. I like to see that I cross that point so that I keep a nicer point on my geese. Sometimes I don't always get to see it because of the way the block is set up and what we're doing, but whenever I can, I want to see me cross that section. We'll see how close I came on keeping that lined up. There, that looks beautiful. So you can see I didn't nip him off or I didn't make him too big. And that's because I was able to see that spot when I crossed it. Okay, we'll give him a quick little press. And then I'll place it in the block. And now we have all of our parts. And I always say that this part now is like sewing together a 9-patch, where we start on the left-hand side, fold the center over, and stitch, and just keep stitching them all together. On this one I also kept the border simple because the blue design has a lot going on in it. There's a lot of movement there. So just a simple little border, 1.5 by 6. The other sides are 1.5 by 8.5. So we put them together and then there's our block. To put it into a pot holder, I cut a piece bigger, my piece, anywhere from 9.5 to 10 inches, because I want to make sure that it's plenty big. I go through my scraps of batting, cut a nice piece for that, a piece of Insul-Bright that gives me that really nice insulation that you need to keep your hand away from the heat. If you don't have the Insul-Bright, you'll need 3 to 4 battings. And that actually makes it really, really bulky, where these pieces create just a nice weight. Lay your blocks down, press it out, use a few pins to hold it in place, and then stitch however you want. I like to stitch in the ditch, so on this one I did just around my T's, around my outer perimeter, and then I used the same as the backing for my binding. And that is my block called Capital T. And I want to think this one was named after me, but I have no idea. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed watching our blocks here at Fabric Junction, and do stop by to see us. And thank you again for watching.